I'm glad you were. Amazon keeps sending me.
Well, I
Past.
several years ago.
4 years ago. That's what happened. I maintain a website for beekeepers. Had pretty good stuff. I can't find anybody to take over. And it's not a, I don't have to know it. You just kind of put it where you want it to go. It does it for you. It's still homegrown corn a lot to do. But in a normal year, when they don't have COVID, that big space neighbor's house. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we're gonna get going again. I hope y'all enjoyed lunch. I know there was plenty out there. So I hope you did get your fill. If you did get your fill of lunch, I guess that's your own fault. But there is still some brownies and a few more things out there if you still need a little snack. There's still bread for the honey tasting table out there. So feel free to help yourself to that. This next part of our convention, we're going to hear from a local Utah beekeeper. I've asked Rob Bliss to talk to us and let him kind of brag about what he does. He's like, well, this isn't really my cup of tea. I'm like, well, a beekeeper doesn't like to talk about himself. It's not really a beekeeper. But I've known Rob for quite a few years. I think I even remember when he got his first bees from us. 2000, no, back in 1990 something. 1990. I know, it was a long time ago. I remember I wasn't very old. But he bought some bees from us, and that, you know, I've learned a lot from Rob over the years. Rob's always been the guy that I thought of, go big or go home. So when I watched Rob Bliss do something, I'm like, oh, I need to pay attention. So I thought he'd be a good beekeeper to spotlight this year. So let me turn the time over to him.
Well, hopefully this thing's working here. I don't know. Anyway, thanks, Jared. So my name's Rob Bliss, commercial beekeeper. Let me tell you a little bit about how things got started. So we just lived in Texas. That's why it says established in Stephenville, Texas. That's kind of how we got started way back in the day. And, you know, my wife was really into preparedness. And she was talking to other people in the community. Can you hear me okay with this? Is that all right? Yeah. And so, you know, we had different things to be prepared, and, you know, in case whatever. And but the one thing we thought about was honey quite a bit because man, it seemed so expensive back there. You know, $40 to $50 for a 5-gallon bucket. Way back then, it seemed like a lot. So she's like, "Hey Rob, why don't we get some bees?" You know, and I thought, oh, you know, that seems cool, I guess. But do I really want to get stung? You know, the same things that we all think about when we first started thinking about bees. And so she talked to someone, some other people in the community about it. And there was this one friend of hers that said, "Hey, I know someone that's selling a bunch of bees or a bunch of beekeeping equipment. They got rid of their bees and they have all this equipment. And they live out here in the middle of out in the middle of nowhere." And so we got in our car and this is in Texas. And we drove out in the middle of nowhere. It was by some lake somewhere, and this old beekeeper had all this raw equipment sitting there and he's gonna sell. And so we kind of looked through it. I didn't know what I was doing. And so we just kind of said, okay, we'll take that and that. And we threw it in the trunk of our car and we bought a book from him and asked him a million questions. And then we drove home. And I had a friend who had, I don't know, 15 or 20 hives there in Texas. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to get some packages. Do you want me to get one for you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." what's that, you know? That's how you start your equipment, I guess, and so, so we bought a package and it was $30, and I'm like, "30, that seems like a lot of money." Okay, what are they, like 150 or something today? But, so we bought them for $30, that first package, and you know, of course, I was scared of that. There's no YouTube videos back then to watch to know how to install packages. I didn't know what I was doing. He just kind of showed me real quick, and I got home and I got my V-suit on and everything, and I was scared to death, you know, and I smacked that package out and pulled the can out, pulled the queen out, and shook them onto the box, and did everything I was supposed to, and put one of those entrance heaters in the front, and just, you know, just kept filling it up every day, and every once in a while, I look in there, and they were drawing comb, and I saw some brood, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's good." So, you know, it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, and, you know, and winter came around, and after a while, I couldn't feed them. I thought, oh, they're good now. I don't know, they didn't make it past the first winter, though, and they got died. I'm like, that's too bad. And so the next year, I'm like, well, let's go big. Let's go with 2 this year. So this time, I just ordered some equipment. You know, I don't even know if we had online back then in the 90s. So I didn't order. I called David and got some equipment coming, and I painted it together. And this time I ordered 2 packages, and they've got like $35 for a package. And I'm like, are you kidding me? $35? Isn't that funny how we look back and we think things are so much, they're really so cheap. But so I got 2 packages, and I put them in, and I fed them and fed them and fed them, and they did a lot better. And they, you know, I never made any honey off them because I didn't know how to extract honey, so I didn't put any honey seekers on, but I just kind of let them go. And then shortly after that, we moved to Utah. That was our first 2 years of beekeeping, and we just left those hives there because I didn't know how to mess with moving hives or anything at that point. And so came to Utah, and we were here for a year or so. We moved in 2002, so I think it was like 2003. I thought, oh, let's get some more packages. So I ordered like 15 packages that year. And then I started thinking, man, I hate that we left that stuff in Texas. And so my dad was, so okay, let me start at the very beginning. I was in the dairy business to start with. And that's what I did, you know, most of my life before I got into bees. So in the dairy business. So my dad needed to go back to the dairy in Texas that he was leasing to someone to get some stuff. So I'm like, hey, let's take a trailer and throw those 2 hives on and bring it back. And so we had this plan, and we drove over there, and we threw these 2 hives on the back of this trailer and figured out how to shut them all in so they're not gonna, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. So we shoved some screen in the entrance and drove back, and I had these, well, one of them was dead, but we got the equipment. The other one was still alive after it's been there a couple of years, I guess, total. When I started, it was still going strong. It was full of bees, and they're pretty mean too. I don't know if they were Africanized or what, but those Texas bees, they were mean. I can deal with that now, but back then I couldn't. It scared me to death. So anyway, we bring it home, and so I bought 15 packages, and those 2 hives, and so man, we were up and running, you know, with 17 hives, and we kept them that year, and the next year I'm like, okay. Let me warn you all right now. You gotta be really careful not to get the bee disease, okay? You gotta be really careful. And I have a feeling that most of you already have it. You probably wouldn't be here. So what I say today is either going to encourage you or it's going to discourage you. And I tend to think there's probably going to encourage most of you. So, but I got to warn you, if you get the bee disease, you get it in your blood and you can't get it out. So anyway, that's what happened. It started happening to me after it was my 3rd year in or whatever, and I had 17 hives. And I was like, oh, you know, the taste of honey was so much better than the smell of cow manure. I was like, what am I doing dairy, you know? That's hard work. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into with the bees, how hard work that is. But, you know, cows kick you, bee sting you, I'd rather be stung than kicked, and you know, a lot of things like that. So I just fell in love with it until I started thinking that's what I want to do. So the next year, I'm like, I'm going to buy 200 packages. So, and at the time I had a big vested interest in the dairy. I was a part owner, and it was fortunate because I had a little bit of money there that I could pull out to put into bees because I wanted to do it more than just as a hobbyist. And so I bought 200 packages and you know, built all this equipment. I hired a couple teenage kids, and we put all of our foundation was wax foundation. We melted it all into the wires. We wired and waxed everything because I was worried how well they were going to draw the plastic out. So we spent all this time, you know, it's like months we were building stuff, getting ready and getting syrup and getting all ready. But we did 200 packages, and man, they just did so well. We fed them like crazy, and then found a few good areas to put them in. I didn't really have a good forklift yet. I was using an old skid steer that didn't have a mast on it, had a bucket, but I had forks and, oh, it was really hard. And I put everything in the back of this long trailer and then drove the forklift up on it. And it was tough, but you know, we made that work for a couple years and I got stuck. I can't tell you how many times with that, but anyway, so the bees did okay, you know, we made a little bit of honey. I put some supers on and, you know, Utah's not a big honey production state. We don't make a lot here, but we made a little bit and I extracted it in the, we have a little side room and I turned the heaters on and I, you know, extracted it, you know, made, I don't know, a little bit of honey, not a lot. And so that fall, I'm like, man, this is awesome. You know, that disease was just getting me more all the time. So I started out talking to my dad and I said, hey, I think I want to do this full time. And so I think I want to just kind of pull away from the dairy. And so I bought a semi-bees that fall and I'll kind of show you so this was on the dairy here. And I had all this beekeeping equipment after a while just stacked up under the overhang. This is the work on our equipment on the dairy, but I'd kind of taken over about a third of the inside plus about half of or maybe more than half of that outside overhang there. And I was just building stuff and building and building and building. And, you know, so we bought a semi-load of bees. Now, okay, we're really fortunate. The fall is not the best time to buy bees because if they have they look great in the late summer and early fall. You think, wow, how great these bees are. If you have mite problems, which I didn't really know how to check anything for sure back then, they could all be dead by the time spring rolls around, by the time the almonds, you know, we would go to the almonds, that's where we make most of the money. But I was real fortunate. I bought from a real reputable guy and I didn't really know, but it turned out that it was I don't know if any of you know the noises up in Idaho. There's great people. They really, really good beekeepers. Tony Noyes and Nick Noyes. Anyway, bought some I looked from them, and almost all of them lived through the winter, and they were just great bees. And we took them into the almonds. I think we took 400 or 500 in the 200 packages plus these 400. You know, we lost maybe 50 or whatever in the winter, which is normal. So we still took 400 or 500 into the almonds. I think it was around 500. And anyway, wow, I got that paycheck, and I didn't need to put it back or I didn't need to live on it because I was part of the dairy and I was getting money from the dairy. And so that was a big advantage I had to be able to starve. I didn't have to live off the money from the bees. And so I was really lucky that way or fortunate or my hard work earlier translated on the dairy translated into the bees later. And so I just kept getting a paycheck from the dairy and all the money the bees made, I can just keep putting back into the bees and so we ended up building a warehouse later. And you know, that was probably our first year. That was our first year in the almonds there. And then I built a little block building just right next to my house. And that was one of our first years extracting. We had a couple of my daughters there. This was probably back in 2005 or something like that. And there we go. Still extracting. There's my beautiful wife right there. Got her in there to help us once or twice or a few times. It sometimes just worked. So that was our, one of our first, there's about a 300-gallon stainless steel milk tank, pretty cheap, and you can't really see because of the lighting, but there's when you go to that. And then I bought a 1,000-gallon tank, and it was stainless on the inside, but not on the outside. Of course, we had to paint it, but how else were we going to paint it? Paint it like a bee. And so that was fun. Okay. Now, eventually, when I split off in 2006, I split off the dairies like in 2007. And I said, okay, I'm going just full speed bees. I'm not even thinking about dairy again. And so, we've been getting the money from the almond. I didn't have to, it was such a benefit, such a blessing that money from the bees I didn't have to live on. So I was able to just put it back into bees and get more bees and grow and grow. And then we built our buildings. There's another building here you can't see, but this is where we extract now. The old picture from kind of a small building next to our house, but now we extract here. Anyway, and so okay, there you go. Okay, there's the other one's from the back side. This is from the front side. Sometimes there's a big pad up here. We can load semis on if we want. So there's our facility where we do our work. We have a shop. Okay. All right. Now we catch up to the pictures. Okay, so we went along for a few years. Things were going great. Because I could just keep putting all the money back into the bees, and we could just almost grow as fast as I could keep up with. So I was really blessed because, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. So I jumped in with both feet, with my eyes closed. I mean, I thought they were open, but I was totally clueless. I didn't know what I was doing. And so made a lot of mistakes. You know, probably the first 3 years, lost a lot of hives, did a lot of stupid things, tried a lot of things that, you know, the real commercial beekeepers knew what they were doing, and I didn't always follow them. I'd read stuff online, or like, that looks like a good idea, I'll try that, you know. I mean, some of them worked, but most of them were kind of a dumb idea, and I should have just, you know, I should have followed what the regular commercial beekeepers were doing. If I had to do it over again, I would have tried to work. So I suggest to anyone, unless you have a bunch of money behind you, you lose a bunch of money because you don't know what you're doing, I would suggest starting working up slowly and work for someone, work for a commercial beekeeper, or at least a beekeeper with a lot of hives for a few years to really know what you're looking at, what you're hearing, what you're smelling. There's a lot of things in a hive when you open it. You know, you can instantly recognize using your senses. And so you kind of get a second sense after a while to know if they're queenless, to know if they have a disease, just the way they look and smell and the way they act. And anyway, there's a lot of things you can notice, but it takes time. You know, you got to open thousands and thousands and thousands of hives, tens of thousands, before you finally start kind of getting a feel for that, you know, if that's all you're going to do. So anyway, so it took me a few years kind of, you know, I mean, still don't know what I'm doing compared to these guys like the Stevensons here, you know, Brian and Michael Stevenson, their dad Roger. Those guys really know what they're doing. But they've been a big help too. You know, I talked to them about a lot of things, and super awesome people they've helped. Jared Taylor and his dad Mel Taylor, just great people that give me good advice and help me, and in a number of different ways. They've been in it forever, and they're real knowledgeable. So I was a little bit, you know, Johnny come lately, but you know, I loved it so much and I was so passionate about it. You know, I loved it so much that I was seriously working like 12 to 16 hours a day, every day. I hated weekends. In fact, I usually Sunday is the only day I took off, and I worked 6 days a week and just full blast all the time. I didn't want to go on vacations. I didn't want any hobbies. I didn't want to do anything because I love bees so much. It's the only thing I wanted to do. I went that way for quite a few years. And then what happened is my family was still in the dairy business. They way outgrown themselves. They grew faster than they should have, and they got into a lot of financial trouble. And they built a new dairy, you know, huge dairy, and they weren't able to fill it with cows, and they, you know, you had to make your bake payments. So I'm like, well, all right, since I was fortunate enough to be in the dairies to have money to get to the bees, let me just join up with the dairy again, sell everything from the bees, and just put it back into the dairies, and see if we can kind of, you know, keep the dairies from failing. So I sold all my bees. I had a couple thousand hives or something. I sold them, and I sold all my honey supers, my extractor, and I did keep my truck and forklift, but I sold everything else. I still have the buildings because, you know, they're a little hard to sell. The other stuff sold really easy, and I might have sold the buildings, but anyway, so I sold it all, and I was going to join back the dairies. Started to do that, but I can tell it wasn't going to work. Sometimes family businesses, you know, things are rough sometimes, and so I decided that's not going to work. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. But I already sold my bees, so I'm like, oh, now what do I do? You know, fortunately at that point I didn't have any debt, but I had these buildings. Like, I got to do something with these buildings, you know. And so I thought, well, and it's hard to be away from home a lot, working bees, you miss your family, and I'm like, let me just try a business out of my buildings. So I bought some woodworking machinery. I mean, some really high production. We could make 1,000 or more boxes a day. We could cut them, and so I bought a bunch of equipment, and bought a bunch of wood. I mean, a bunch of wood, like semi after semi after semi wood. I thought it would work well, but you know, there's another learning curve that I didn't really know what I was doing. And so we jumped into that again with both feet, and that didn't go as well. The bees went a lot better. The woodworking didn't go too well. After a few years of that, we were losing a lot of money. And at that point, I started borrowing. Okay, I got to borrow some money to keep this thing going. I didn't have any debt on my buildings, but I borrowed a whole bunch of money against my buildings to be able to buy more wood and, you know, make payroll, and it was getting stressful. And I went to my mom one day and I said, man, I'm stressed out. I'm losing money every day. where, a lot of the problems are machinery that we got. It was kind of custom built. It was awesome, but the guy that built it didn't complete it. So it took us a couple of years and a lot of effort and wages. I hired a guy that was pretty good at that kind of stuff, and good word worker and a good with electrical and all kinds of stuff. And he kind of got things going with a lot of phone calls and bringing in other people from out of state. And we finally got our machines finished and they worked good. But that was a couple of years in before they were finally working good. And we got the machine a year late than what we was promised, and we bought another machine. It was 2 years late. So we were so far behind the 8 ball at that time. And we'd already lost so much money that I don't know, it wasn't going to work. And my heart wasn't in it. I couldn't force myself to work on it anymore like I could with these. And so I was talking to my mom one day, and I'm like, you know what? I said, I'm sick and tired of doing this woodworking, and I was just really discouraged. I said, I wish I had never sold the bees. I wish I could just have the bees back and just forget about this woodworking thing. That was on whatever day it was. That was on Tuesday. I said, I just want to do bees. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do this other stuff. And now say it was on Tuesday. The next day on Wednesday, I got a call from an insurance guy. He says, yeah, the yaks. I think Gator Yak gave me your phone number. And he said, we have a semi of bees that's tipped over out in Nevada. It was like 4 hours from where I live. And, this is it. And I said, okay, well, you want to sell it to me? I want to buy it from you. He's like, oh, no, we don't want to sell it, but we'll pay you to salvage it for us. I said, well, I'd rather buy it. He said, well, I don't have that. I can't make that. My supervisor has to make that decision. I said, well, okay, I'll go out and look and see what we can do. And that was in the evening. So I worked all day that day. When I got the call in the afternoon. And then so I said, okay, let's go look at it. So I went out with my brother and we drove 4 hours out there, 3 or 4 hours one way. It was quite a ways out. And at the time of year, it was in May. They couldn't get no commercial beekeepers could mess with it because they're all busy with springtime is insane. And there's no time to go mess with the local bees. And so I get out there and we look at it. I'm like, oh, this is quite a mess. And so I was like, wow, look at all these hives. And you can't tell in this picture, but every single one of these boxes is packed full of bees. You can see a little bit better with this picture. You see that? You can see the bees in there and on there and on there. Every single hive was full of bees. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are good bees, big, strong bees. And so, of course, they're a big mess. And it's hard to tell from some of these pictures, but it's way down in like a ravine. And we couldn't drive the forklift down there. Every single box had been carried up. You can kind of tell up there was that. So the forklift could not get down, and the forklift could kind of just be a little bit off the road. And so I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do. And so we started, my brother and I, bees are after, well, maybe you don't know what bees are, but after a wreck, they're not so too happy. We had to carry one box at a time, all the way up, 30 feet or whatever from the bottom of the road, and then put them on a pallet and get the next box. You have to hope. We try to keep the 2 boxes together because you mix match the boxes and get 2 queens in one hive and none in another. And so most of them I think we kept together, but a lot of them I'm sure we didn't. So we worked, a better part of the night that night. Moving, we got 120 of them out of there, loaded my truck, 3 high on my bee truck, and we drove all the way home. And that was the next morning, it was time to go to work again. And so here we are back cutting wood. And I'm like, I was in the worst mood because like I was working, I didn't get these bees. So I just set them there on that by my shop, by my place there. And I said, okay, they can deal with these bees. I'm not doing them anymore. I'm not doing all this work, just to let someone have them or whatever. So I'll let them have these 120. I wasn't going to keep those, of course. I'm going to keep anything, but it's not worth it to me to go back. There was like almost 450 hives on this truck, and I didn't care anymore. I was too tired. So I started working the next day, and then that afternoon, oh, I forgot one thing. Well, we were up here doing these bees. A guy stopped by to talk to me that lived right there. He's like, yeah, he goes, every few years the truck tips over, and he says, the insurance company, am I standing on the X? The insurance company pays like $10,000 or $20,000 to have them foam and then haul to the gravel pit or haul to the dump. And they just haul there and burn them. It's all trash. And the insurance company pays. I'm like, wait, the insurance company paying $10,000 or $20,000 and they want me to pay to what these bees are, the full amount these bees are worth is what they were getting at. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So anyway, so I had that information. The insurance company normally loses big time in this. I'm like, okay, well, at least I know that. So anyway, so the next day I'm worked all day, worked all night. I was working all day and I was just starting to get kind of beside myself. That afternoon, the insurance agent called me, goes, hey, what about those bees? Did you get those bees? And I said, well, we got 120 of them out of 450. And he says, well, you gonna go finish? I'm like, I don't know. I said, if you sell them to me, I might consider it. I asked, no, I didn't say that. I said, I will go clean those bees up and I won't even charge you. I said, I know that it'll cost you $10,000 or $20,000 to have those bees taken care of, to have them foamed and then hauled to the dump. And I said, it's gonna cost you. I said, but I won't even charge you. I will sort of get it for free and you won't have to pay any money. Of course, he didn't like that. He's like, oh, we can't do that. This is a salvage operation. You have to pay something. We can't, no, we can't do that. I said, okay, then I don't care. And I didn't care at that point because I've been too long without sleep. Nothing mattered to me. And I was too tired. And I said, well, okay. But you've already got 120 of them. I said, well, they're your bees. They're sitting right here. You can come get them. I don't want any. I'm too tired. Doesn't matter to me anymore. I said, if you'll give me the bees, or I won't charge you, I'll clean up your mess, and I won't even charge you. I'm like, you got me over a barrel now. I don't know what to do. I said, well, you got 120 of them right here. You can have them. Just get someone else to go pay someone to phone them and throw them away. You have that ability. That's what you normally do. Well, let me talk to my supervisor. Then he called me back in a few minutes. He said, okay. Well, we will sell them to you. So, you don't have to buy or you don't. He wanted us to pay me a wage to salvage the bees, and then they'd be their bees. So they would turn around and sell them for $150 a hive, so whatever, $50,000 or whatever for the semi. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to kill myself for nothing. And so he finally said, okay, we'll sell you the whole load. We'll sell you the whole load. We'll sell it to you for $10,000. And I'm thinking, oh man, okay, I would do that. But I was still so tired. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't know. I don't want to do that. I said, I'll do it for you. I'll do you a favor and I'll clean them up and won't charge you. Anyway, we finally made an agreement. I paid him $3,000 for a second 450 hives. And yeah, then I went and got my brother-in-law, an employee, and my other brother. So there were 4 of us. We pulled a big long trailer and took the bee truck back, and we spent all night that night. And my brother-in-law got stung up a billion times. He was just throwing up all over the place because he got so sick from stings. And we were all just sick to do bees. If you ever work bees at night, they crawl all over you. They don't, it's way better working bees in the day because they fly. At night they crawl. And so you have to tape your ankles, and he didn't have his ankles taped or whatever, I don't know. But he was just, by the end of the night, he was just throwing up. And I hope I didn't kill my brother-in-law. My sister will have to forgive me, But anyway, long story short, we got it back. I paid the insurance company $3,000. I paid my guys, my brother and brother-in-law, and an employee of mine that I still had. I paid them really, really well for the hassle. And so, we were probably into it, I don't know, somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000. We ended up into it. And of course, then I was 52 hours without sleep, and I was hallucinating on the way home that second night. I wasn't very sick, but all the bees home. And then, what do I do with all these bees? They're so huge, they're all going to swarm. And so I was able to call and get 400 queens coming, but we split them all. And in 1 week's time, we went from 0 hives to like somewhere between 800 and 900 hives, because almost all these bees made it. And we split them all with queens. Almost everything made it. And so, we ended up with 900 hives. I'm like, holy cow. The following year, we took like 800 of the almonds. So we didn't lose many all the way through. And so anyway, so we were off and running again. We were running, and then we did fairly successful, and then we sold out because of the area, and then once again we got going again. So it was just a huge blessing for us. And so here we are, just going full blast. There's my couple of my sons and an employee, and I don't know who that is back there. The nephew. But we're just building and building and building, and and this might have even been for an order, because we're still cutting boxes at this point. We were cutting boxes to sell and we were doing beekeeping both at the same time. So, and we're making packages here. Early on we used to make packages a lot. Packaged are really nice, really healthy. Yeah, okay, I know these bees. We bought these bees. This is actually before, a little bit out of order. This was when I first got in. We bought these bees from a local beekeeper there. Wait, no, never mind, I lied. This is, we made some packages. I got these packages from, these are Jerry Stoddard's bees. And this was just probably a couple years ago. But anyway, it just shows one of the ways, one of the ways to increase. We're making packages here. So those white plastic, those are cages, and you shake 3 pounds of bees into the, anyway. It's kind of a cool technique you use to make packages. We've done that a lot. Those are all full of bees. So those are, I think we made those in one day's work. We'll install them a few days later. And we went to California, bought these. I twisted Missy's arm to come with me. So that's kind of fun. Just as we grow and then, so.
Look, got a little bit of.
Okay, these are bees coming out from South Dakota. So a year or two after we got back into the bees, we have some local beekeepers there, the Stoddard, Steve Stoddard, and then his son-in-law, Logan Cleaver, and Brian Cleaver, Logan's brother. They go to the Whale and Stevenson's went up there the year before this and this year. But anyway, we had the opportunity to go to South Dakota. And I'd ship bees to North Dakota and let someone else run them. We crop shared the honey. But this year I actually went myself to South Dakota. And so I've never had that experience before. And so the bees make so much honey. There's so much nutrition coming in that they just turn into monsters, you know. And so these boxes, these are bee hives are not in 1 or 2 boxes. They're in 3 boxes. There's 2. This is coming home. There's two deeps. And then you have your shallow or your medium honey super on top. We want to get them, they got so big, so we just shipped them home like that, and then we pulled the honey off. Well, most of the honey we pulled in South Dakota, but the last box we left on until we got home. And I just think that was at night. I mean, that's at night. And the bees they're just so, they get so big up there that's kind of a fun picture to show how that. Okay. And this is, you know, we go to California, make splits. You know, this is moving some. We're moving some bees here. I don't know what we're doing. Moving bees in California. I don't know if those are split or what. Okay, so this is the oranges. Usually we go to the almonds, and then we go to the oranges afterwards. These bees are the oranges. We'd split these hives, and then we put a box on top that we grow up into. So these are really nubes. They're just kind of big nubes. And so these are all pictures of bees and the oranges.
You get a pretty good honey crop with the oranges? Because the oranges don't need you, right?
No, they do not need us. They don't even want us. But because we're in there, we don't have stupid bees here. They go to pick their oranges and they're getting stung, and we get complaints about that a lot. You know.
But do you make a fair honey crop with it?
Decent, yeah. It depends on the year. Some years are pretty good. Some years are not so good. You know. It just depends on the year, but you can do pretty good. You know, it's real fast. You know, it only goes for a few weeks, and sometimes you only get a week of really good honey production. But if you have a good hive, you know, they can bring in a lot of honey in a day, and this doesn't take many days to fill up a couple supers. You know, so it just depends. It depends. And a lot of times we have split down to nukes, and so we don't make much honey. They just use the honey to grow with, and so we don't keep it. Okay, now this time these are our 2 box machines that we used to cut those boxes with. And so we were still doing that. We went to the orange the first time, but we were still cutting boxes as well. Oh, finally, after a lot of stress and a lot of prayer, Man Lake, of all places, found out that we had these box machines, and they wanted to get some. The same guy that built mine was building theirs, and they were already a year or 2 behind. And they're like, "You have these 2 box machines?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, they thought I had one." The guy came out and said, "Oh, yeah, are you that for sale?" And he called me first before he came out. I said, "Yeah, come on out." And so we bought that machine. He goes, "Wait, what's this machine here?" I said, "That's the same thing." He goes, "You have 2 of them?" I didn't know. I said, "I didn't really want 2. I thought you wanted 1." So I told him we had 1. We had 2. He goes, "Oh, we wanted both." He goes, "Let me call my boss." Call his boss. Bam. Sold them both. And he loaded them up. Oh, thought I had. Okay, that was just to show you. Okay, this is more orange stuff.
So you're gonna tell everybody, Rob, that now we can't get the Utah cut ball.
No,
You
oh,
gotta
yeah.
tell them that.
Yeah, we can have a specialty box that was really good, really strong, and we don't make any more. That was in California, the oranges were, I don't know what in there. This is loading up bees to come home from the oranges. We have them piled up, we're gonna, a semi, we're gonna back in here and load it up. Just corner of the field, and kind of take what we can get. There's a swarm in the oranges, whoops. There's a swarm in the oranges. That's the bees, you know, that night, or actually, you know what? I guess we didn't, I think we're missing a couple pictures. These are loading up our trucks to go to the oranges to split with. We have pallets, and most of our stuff goes in a semi, but then these two trucks have pallets and have lids. And I guess there are a few boxes on there too. Most of the boxes go in the semi. This is still back when we were cutting boxes. There's someone picked up they picked up with that big truck there. There's probably a couple thousand boxes on that truck right there. They're not assembled yet. Okay, now here's where thank goodness, this is where we're selling that equipment. Manlake bought it from us, and I was like, good riddance. You know, they have money, they have experience, and they have smart, they can hire smart people to make sure it all works good. And so they've been cutting boxes with our machinery ever since. There's the two box machines inside the truck, and then now this guy came out, he was just a genius. He knew how to load all this stuff and rig it all up, and I was impressed with him. He was from Poland and did some fun talks about some of his Russian experiences. But anyway, we got rid of it all, we got paid, and then we bought more of these. And so we were in another truck or another forklift. I bought a guy out that was from Colorado. You know, he had like 500 hides or something. He had a forklift in a truck. And then we got all these Colorado locations. And so we started, there's so many beekeepers where we live in Delta that, you know, commercial beekeepers, that if you try to grow and find a new area, you're putting bees all over everybody else. And, you know, so, but we go to Colorado, and there was no commercial beekeepers there. So we said, okay, all our growth is from now on is in Colorado. So we kind of, you know, keep good friends. And everyone was always real nice. No one ever got mad at us. And we put bees close to them. People was like, hey, are those your bees? I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. Oh, okay, well, we'll put them there next year. And we try to do a good job there and not get too close to other people. But we figured that going to Colorado was going to be our best bet. So this is kind of some of our growth. This is actually Utah yard still. This is probably one of the best years we ever had in Utah. Utah never looks like that, but nor normally. But this year did. And there's a lot of supers on those for Utah. That's kind of a surprising year. We don't normally get that. Okay, and then we bought a new extracting system a couple years ago because we sold our other one, but we sold out earlier. And now we're in our metal building. And there's our 1,000-gallon tank. We needed a few more of them, but there's just starting to fill it with honey. We're starting the season out there. You can't see that very well, can you? There, just some ways we bottle honey, and we bottle a bunch of them in these cases too. You guys look at that. There's a bunch of wax. That's all beeswax we make. That's a wax melter right there behind it. We put 3 barrels of cappings in, and it comes out like that. Okay, now this is back to Colorado. We're building bear fences, okay? We don't have this problem in Utah, but in Colorado, we just have massive bear problems. I mean, they just tear everything to pieces. They destroy everything. So I took my son and my nephew, our second year in Colorado. And there were a few there already. The guy we bought it from, but not nearly enough because we want to grow over there. We can grow there. That's what's nice. And so we built this bear fence. And then here's a bear fence we built. There's we're working. This one's up in the mountains actually. We're working some highs there. That mountain honey is really good. It has a lot of clover in it. This was down in the valley, and this is just another bear fence, and bees making honey there. And we bring our semis down to a gravel pit, and we unload everything in a gravel pit. That way, if it's snowy or rainy, it doesn't matter. You'll get stuck. I know I've been stuck a lot, so holy cow, I've been stuck so many times in the mud. But this is always good. And then from here, we spread them out. You know, we'll take like 80 or whatever highs at a time, and then we'll spread that all over the valley and then up in the mountains. That's just part of the gravel there. There's another bear. This is up in the mountains. This is another bear fence. Here's another one up in the mountains. We had a bear actually on the other side of that. He reached underneath. They started tearing some hides up. He kept getting shot, so we wouldn't climb all the way under or over. But just enough to where he could kind of tear some hides up on the very back side of that. Darn bear. They're so tricky, so sneaky. Here's another way we stay away from the bears. We set them up on top of, this actually works really well. It's a little bit of a pain, you gotta work, you gotta bring everyone down and work it and then set it back up. But you don't have to worry about the expense of a bear fence. And then in theory, you're safe from bears, but up here actually, there's a tree on the back side of this. The last year we used this, a little teeny wimpy tree. And somehow a stinking bear went up and attacked our ice up on top. So you can't win sometimes. They still got us, but not, it had to be a really small bear to go up a little tree. And I think it got a couple stings and it started screaming for its mom and headed off. It only affected one hive. Normally they'll just trash everything, but it hit one hive. Yeah, we're pulling honey here. Those are all honey supers. Heading home to extract it. This hive, we didn't get enough honey supers on that hive, and so they'll start building honey just all over the place. So there's a lot of honey there in between the boxes. We'll pull the top box off. Here's some bear attack. Okay, we got attacked by a bear there. Force some hives up. There's another bear attack. They like to tear up. Now this one, we had a bunch of honey supers just stored there ready to put on hives. I said, I'll just put a net over everything, and so we'll be okay. It keeps robber bees from robbing out whatever honey's in those. So we the bears can't get. I put a big strap around it and cinched it up good, and so I'm like, the bears can't bother that. Well, they did. They just tore right through our net, just started pulling everything out, but they quit because they really weren't getting any honey. It was just a residue. It smelled good. It was just a residue from the extraction the previous season. They were empty honey supers, but it tore everything up. So that's why we have the bear fences. Now this is out on the coast in California. Is we made after the almonds this year. We didn't go to the oranges. We went out to the coast of Santa Maria, and we made what did we make out there? We made black sage honey. Yeah, we made sage honey out there, and holy cow! Look how, a lot of these hives made over 200 pounds. I couldn't believe it. Those are deeps on there. 1, 2, top 2, and then you got a bunch of. I think the second box up is way down here. So all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are all honey supers, and some of them are deep honey supers, But we made a lot of honey out there that year. It's hard on our bees though. There's also this is another picture in the sage on the coast of California. This is kind of up on a cliff, kind of a weird area, kind of cool, but and we've split these bees before that, and so some of them didn't take. That's why there's some holes there. We put a queen cell in, and the ones that didn't work, we stack on top to make honey. But anyway, there's again using that because we have all that. These are full of honey. These are all full of honey. And before the semi comes and picks it up, we have to keep a semi net over it. So because there's a lot of bees in the area, the bees will just rob that all out. They'll take all the honey away. And so you got to keep it covered. And then these are bees in it's like a eucalyptus forest. And those are some hives we have sitting in there. Probably some nymphs. That's the same area. We just load those up onto that truck back there. This is also in Santa Maria. We're moving hives here. We're moving them out here to head into the almonds. We overwintered here on the coast, and then we hauled them. We hauled them ourselves. We couldn't get a semi, so we just did a million trips, a 3-hour each way trip to get the almonds from here. But we had a trailer and a truck and this truck. And we overloaded a little bit, just kind of Okay, so there's different ways you can overwinter your bees. Here's the way we've been doing it lately. We've been putting them inside of an old turkey shed. And so the temperature stays constant, doesn't get real hot, doesn't get real cold. Kind of, the bees, they eat less honey that way. They seem to come out a little bit better, I think. A lot of people swear by it, and we've been pretty happy with it too. That's one way. Another way is we just put them on, stage them all in California in November. And that's what this is. This is probably like, this is a semi. We probably have half the semi there. The semi is probably in the middle, probably half the semi over there. On this side too. So that's one way we've done it. We used to do it that way first.
And how long do you leave in that state?
They'll sit there usually from November until the first week of February. First week of February, move into the almonds.
Do you provide protein supplements? to them, feed
Sometimes,
them?
yeah, it depends. We fed them a lot. Early on, I used to feed them a lot, and then I just stopped doing it. They seem to have plenty of pollen there, and so then we stopped. I don't know. I haven't really seen a lot of difference when we did feed protein supplement. It just kind of depends on how the hive is. Some of them are light. We did feed a lot of them because they're light. If they're heavy, we don't feed them. If they're light, we don't feed them some sugar so they don't starve to death when they go to the almonds. Some years we just let it snow on them. And they've done okay. The hive is healthy. They seem to do okay that way too. So this is on the way to California a couple years ago, pulling our forklift, and we're in a little bit of a snowstorm there. You can hardly even see the forklift, they're so covered in snow. By the time we got to California, it's all melted off, though. By the time we got to where the almonds are. But it's always something. It's always finding something. Okay, this is when we unloaded our bees in California. We unload them, and then we move out the oranges, or the almonds that night. And this is, we pull all of the stack of 3 pallets, and we set it down. We set it all down, get the semi out as fast as we can, and then we just spread them out. And it takes an hour or two to, probably a couple hours to spread the bees out after we drop it from the semi. They look pretty good there. Good strong bees. They cover the boxes. Okay, here's a video of bees of unload or spreading out bees. At least I think it's a video. Always good at night. Right. That's a ground view. Here's the kind of higher view. It's also a video. Here are young almond trees. We're going through and feeding them stuff. They were splitting them, we do different things. Treat them for mites, split them, feed them, whatever needs to happen. Anyway. There's their place there. The almonds. Real pretty, smells real good, really strong. It's kind of neat. I kind of like it. If you go back during the bloom. Usually we have them in and we're gone before the bloom. Okay, now here's some of the problems we have with beekeeping. You get trucks that break down. I was headed home and I had everything loaded up, headed home when my engine blew up. Of course, it's one of those 6-4 Ford engines, if you're familiar with those. That was the second one this truck went through, or maybe the third. It went through 3 of those, this truck, with only 120,000 miles on it. So had a lot of problems with that truck. Really never had another problem with any other truck, but that had a lot of problems with it. Yeah. expensive. Mites, that was just this year. And we put it under put it at the bottom of the hive, underneath the hives, and tilt them up, put it under it. And spray some cooking oil on there to capture the mites. The next day, then you treat, the next day you come back and we put a bunch of them, this one had the most mites on it. You don't really like to see them that high, but your mite stuff's working good and you drop that many mites, so. Getting off my mark. Okay. There's some mites on, it's kind of fuzzy, but there's mites on a larva, it's drone larva. Most of the mites you'll see on the drone larva. Okay. You guys probably know what that is, I'm sure, I know some of you will. Chalk brood, yeah. That's sometimes we see a little bit of that. Not a big problem typically, but you see a little bit of it. Okay. Anybody know what happened there? Yeah, we had a whole yard burned down. We had I think we had 60 hives there in a circle. And everything burned down except for that one pallet. That one pallet almost burned, but a bunch of the wood is burned, but it didn't. You see fire in the background. Yeah, we lost a bunch of hives there. That happens. That happens sometimes. A big windstorm. We had a bunch of hives boxes that we painted, and that's stacked up outside because we didn't have room inside. But a huge windstorm that just knocked everything over. Didn't do a lot of damage. It broke a few boxes, but nothing severe. Okay. Can anyone tell what the problem is here? It's kind of a fuzzy picture, so you probably can't tell. But this is a nuke we made. We put a queen cell in, but you know what? Oh, we didn't do a video of this. That queen has no wings, so it's not going to work too well without her having wings because she doesn't get mated. And of course, the video we move up and you can see that it's just all drone root. They call them bullet heads because they have to squish that drone into a little tiny cell and it pokes way out. So if you see that, instantly you know you got a problem. Either it's sterile queen or you have a lame worker. You don't have a good queen anyway. So something to look for. But yeah, she has no wings. We've seen that a few times with queen cells. I don't know if they get too cold or I don't know what happens. They don't develop right. Maybe the bees chew her wings off. I don't know, but some different things happen. We're pulling honey in this area, and the area is really hard to work in. There's not much room. And so I said, I'll park right there and I'll just drive straight down the hill so I don't tip over. It's kind of a steep hill. Well, I guess I didn't have to. Anyway, it didn't work good because those are all totally full of honey. They all just, when I was so mad, I probably said a word or two I shouldn't have. But I only do that. I only swear at my bees when there's no one else around. Well, I can't say that. The bees are the only thing that sometimes get me riled up when, I tend to get mad at the bees more. I don't get mad at people. I get mad at equipment. Okay, so here's another one of the other problems. You gotta be away from home, a lot. When you're a commercial beekeeper, you're away from home a lot. During the summer, I'm home only half the time. Half the time in Colorado, half the time home. Half the time in Colorado, half the time home. Go to the almonds, you're there for a week or two. Well, depending on what you're doing. And so I'm talking to Misty and, showing her stuff behind me. So that's another problem with beekeeping. You gotta be away from home. Okay. Now there are good things with beekeeping too. When you make a new hive, whether it's a package, whether it's a nuke, whatever, you're gonna pull a frame out to see, okay, how are my queens doing? Then you open up a brood nest like that, and you see a pretty solid brood nest, and you got nice, pretty, pollen around it and honey, and bees are growing, and they look good, and they smell good, and they sound good. That's just, it's like, okay, it's worth it. You open the lid, or you crack the box in the middle, and that's just a shadow right there, is all that is. But when you crack the box in the middle and your bees look like that, it's just, it feels good. It makes you happy. Well, this is a video I think here. You start this video, and then you're out in nature, and this is down in the gravel pit. Some pretty nice sized bucks there. Like 3 of them, I think. can't, it's a bad video, but. That's kind of fun, you know, your office is outdoors, that's. Man, it's fun doing, you know, we have Oak, where we live, in Oak City, we have Oak City Days once a year, and we'll, you know, we have let them try some honey. People come by, and then we sell honey and honey butter and, you know, lotions and stuff. No, we always enjoy doing that. We turn that into a family affair. That's a lot of fun. Some of my kids and that's a lot of fun. We have an observation high one year. There's my daughter. And, you know, storage of our honeycomb in our building. I think that might be it.
How many hives do you run?
Well, usually between 2,000 and 3,000. You know, in the spring we try to peak around 3,000. You know, each year we try to get a little bit higher. The highest we've ever been is about 3,000 last year. And then, you know, we'll lose throughout the season. Hopefully not too much. We lost quite a few this past year. We lost more than one.
So you're gonna do splits now after when you pull them out of the
Yeah.
almonds?
Yeah, we'll do splits I have queen cells lined up for the 16th of March. And so we'll go down and pull the bees out the night of the 15th. And the next morning we'll start splitting. We'll usually make, it depends on the way, there's different ways to make our nukes. We'll make 300 to 500 in a day, typically. There's 3 of us. There's fast ways, you probably make 450, maybe 500. If you go a little bit slower way, we're pulling the hive apart frame by frame. You know, maybe 3 of us can do 300. So that's when we take them out of the almonds, we split them, and we move them into the oranges. So where our oranges are, there's also a lot of other flowers, there's a lot of pollen. Oranges typically are not a great pollen source, not a good protein source, and it can be a little hard for the bees. So you have to be careful about that. But where our bees are in the oranges, there's lots of, you know, mustard grass and all kinds of, some of the places we're at are almond, they're organic almonds. And so we put our bees in there. The guy grows a cover crop that's just massive flowers of different kinds. And so the bees can get a good variety of pollens as they work the orange. They can get both. And they come out with those nukes in there, and they do pretty well. They come out pretty good. So they grow and they draw a comb out. And a good year, if we super them up, a big strong hive, we can make some money too. So, yeah.
Repeat questions, Rob. They can't hear the questions.
Oh.
We can't hear right here, so
Oh.
repeat the questions.
Okay. Okay, so the one question here was wondering about what do we, when do we make the splits? And when do we make our nukes or divides? So coming out of the almonds into the oranges is when we do it. We'll split them in, we'll move into the oranges. Where our oranges are, there's a lot of flower, a lot of pollen, good quality protein coming in on top of the nectar they get from the oranges. Oranges are crazy. These, you know, they get into a feeding frenzy. And sometimes you gotta be careful in the oranges because at times, so much nectar comes in so fast, the bees just go crazy. They don't care what hive they go to. They'll just go to the first hive they come to and drop off the honey and drop off the nectar and go back for more. And so sometimes the hives on the ends are closest to where the oranges are. You end up with, you know, way too many, the middle ones will run low on bees, the ones on the outside will just get full of bees. And you can't even see the box. There's so many bees piled all around the whole box, you can't even see it. So oranges, I see that a lot of drifting in the oranges more than other things. So, any more questions here?
What temperature do you keep your turkey warehouse, your overwintering warehouse?
Am I?
What temperature do you keep your overwintering warehouse?
Oh, what temperature do we overwinter our bees? It's right around 50 degrees. 49, or maybe it's, wait, is it 40? Oh, it's 40, not 50, it's 40. So I can look at my phone. He texts me every day what the temperature is. So it's like 39 or 40 or 41. Yeah, it's right in there. So kind of like a refrigerator, you know. Yeah. So they do pretty good. They do pretty good coming out of the sheds. So It's 1:59, are we good? Or any more questions before I turn it over to Mike? All right.
Thanks, Rob. Couple things I want to mention on Rob's slides that I noticed. First of all, the box that he used to build, they were the best box that we've ever found. They were shrunk high, and after he sold his box cutter to Man Lake, we used to go to Man Lake and buy it. And Man Lake sold it, so now we can't find where your cut's at anymore. But that was our favorite cut. I'm a big fan of buying good materials, because good materials are gonna last. I know we bought, when I was a kid, Dad bought some boxes we put together. I see one the other day that was marked 1995. I thought, wow, this has been a pretty good box. You know how many years that's been? 25, 30 years now. Where I bought some boxes from another source, and now they're already falling apart after 5 years. It gets kind of frustrating. So if you can find good materials, it's worth the extra money. The other thing I noticed on Rob's slides is he showed his Ford F-550 that was broke down on the truck. Well, I bought one of those, and Rob told me, sell that thing as fast as you can. I said, no, Rob, you just had the bad one. This one's gonna be a good one. Well, I wish I would have listened to Rob when he told me that, because I dumped a lot more money into that one before I got rid of it. So that's what's good about, I like doing these spotlights on local beekeepers to find out what works and what doesn't. The conversations we have at the tables, in the hallways, these are really good things to learn from. I want to take a quick survey. How many are new beekeepers here today, or in the last year? Any new beekeepers that's just starting the last year? Starting this year, okay. Any beekeepers that's been in business for 5 years? Okay. 10 years? Okay. 20 years? 30? 30, okay. 40? All right. Awesome. What about 50? 50? Okay. Yeah. You start out in family businesses or as a young kid and you stayed with it for quite a few years. You've seen a lot of changes in the industry as things come along, and trying to keep up with all that stuff is hard. Michael?
How many years your dad been in?
Well, Dad, you started when you were 14. The question was, how long ago did my dad start doing bees? He started when he was 14. And how old are you now, Dad?
74.
He's 74.
60 years. It was a lot easier when I started than it will be today. We didn't have mics.
So another thing I thought of, we're talking about honey. How many people produce their own honey and sell it on their own? Okay. How many produce it and sell it to a co-op or a wholesale? Okay, just do the bigger guys. Okay, awesome. So there is local honey around here in Utah. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn time over to Mike Browning and let him